All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Texas Science Festival session, Teaching AI Literacy, AI and AI Ethics Across Disciplines. We're excited to see you here today. My name is Stacy Cayley. I'm the manager of partnerships and programs for Good Systems, which is an interdisciplinary research grant challenge at UT Austin focused on designing responsible AI technologies for the benefit of society. And today we have a great conversation lined up with you for you. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our two expert speakers, Dr. Peter Stone and Dr. Ken Fleischmann. They're both founding leaders of Good Systems. Dr. Peter Stone is a distinguished teaching professor, Truchard Foundation Chair in Computer Science, the director of Texas Robotics, and a founding member of Good Systems. He's the chief scientist at Sony AI. And Dr. Kenneth Fleischmann is a professor and director of undergraduate studies at the UT Austin School of Information. He's the founding chair and chair-elect of Good Systems and editor-in-chief of the ACM Journal on Responsible Computing. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Peter and Ken to get the conversation started. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Stacy, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We have this was sort of billed as a fireside chat, so we're going to just start talking, asking each other some questions and talking about our experiences, especially on the with education of AI and how that's changed over the years, especially in the recent years. But we fully encourage people to ask questions along the way. We're more than happy to turn this into a conversation with the audience. So maybe Ken, do you want to kick off with what you've been involved in and what you're most excited about these days with regards to AI education and good systems?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. And thanks everyone for joining. It's been really exciting, the work we've been able to do in Good Systems on the education side of things. So we are a research grand challenge. We're one of the 3 Bridging Barriers research grand challenges here on campus. But of course, it's not like we are completely partitioning our time as researchers and educators and separating those sides of our worlds, but those actually mutually inform and reinforce each other. So the research findings that we generate can be useful in helping to make sure that students are getting the absolute latest and greatest education, and that education in turn, we often will do some research on how we're teaching to be able to improve teaching over time, and it's an opportunity to publish on the education side of things as well. So it's a really nice positive reinforcing loop there. So, I mean, one thing that I've really been privileged to get to work with you on, Peter, as well as Zhengfeng Zhao, and has been leading this effort, and others, is the portfolio program in ethical AI, which is a campus-wide initiative. It's actually funded by the National Science Foundation Research Traineeship, or NRT program. And so we have a large number of NSF funded fellows, as well as fellows funded by other sources, including Good Systems through the OVPR here at UT Austin, and as well as many other funding sources and many exciting projects that are going on here as part of the larger Good Systems ecosystem. But it's been a lot of fun to be able to create this portfolio program. We have students not only in our units of College of Natural Sciences, Cockrell School of Engineering, School of Architecture, and the School of Information, but we also have students from the School of Nursing, from the Moody College of Communication, from other units across campus. We have courses in the LBJ School of Public Affairs that are part of that program. So it's really a campus-wide initiative. What have you found most exciting about the NRT so far, Peter?
Yeah, so I guess maybe even to jump back a second. So first of all, I couldn't agree more that there's a lot of synergy between the research that we're doing on artificial intelligence and education. And before talking about the NRT, which is a graduate initiative, just want to sort of reflect sort of big picture here at UT how things have changed in AI education. So I've been faculty here since 2002, and I've always specialized in artificial intelligence. It comes as a surprise to some people that that AI was around more than 3 years ago. I hear people saying that they've been involved in AI since the beginning, which and then they say when ChatGPT was introduced. But of course, the field of artificial intelligence has been around. The term was coined in the 1950s, so it's about 75 years now. I've been doing research in the field for 30 years or more, and of course things have changed dramatically in the last decade or so, research wise, and with regards to what kinds of products are out there in the world. But that's also had a profound influence on and sort of how and who needs to be educated about artificial intelligence. So when I was a graduate student back in the the 1990s, artificial intelligence was pretty exclusively in the domain of computer science, and mostly computer science graduate students, and the graduate students focused on the technical side of artificial intelligence. It was about
Yeah, Peter, I think you froze.
Zoom's
Yeah.
Zoom's cut out for me for a second, so I'm back. So I'm saying that what's been most striking to me is that the graduate students in artificial intelligence, first of all, need to know a lot more now than just the technical side. They need to know the societal implications of artificial intelligence. AI is out there. It's influencing industries. There's manufacturing companies that have chief AI officers. There's autonomous cars on our roads. There's artificial intelligence is being used by banks, by all kinds of industries, and so it has become essential to educate computer science graduate students and sort of upper level technical experts also on social sciences, humanities, the societal implications, and what the impacts, not just what they can do, not just thinking about what they can do, but what they should do. And so that's a huge change, and it's spawned things like the NRT that you mentioned, that we educate computer science students on ethical AI. We educate students who are now pursuing AI as a discipline from other departments, from the School of Information where you are, but also from the business school, from all kinds of engineering disciplines, even in music and in humanities. People are sort of grounded in those disciplines and AI experts, and so they need to also know the technical aspects of AI and the history of AI. So at the upper levels of education, there's been sort of a sea change in terms of who gets educated and what they need to get educated in, and then there's also I think just a need to educate everybody about the basics of AI. I think we're getting to a point now where artificial intelligence has become sort of like reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that it should be taught not only at university level, but also down in high school and middle school, even starting in elementary school. That this is there's a certain degree of AI literacy that every student needs, and so I think and this regardless of major, and that doesn't necessarily mean knowing how to program artificial intelligence, but it means knowing what's realistic with regards to when people make claims about artificial intelligence, and what it really is, what it really can do. And so that I think and that's sort of in addition to the incredibly exciting opportunities of using AI technologies to improve education. So there's sort of this educating people about artificial intelligence in a much broader way than we used to do. And it's also using artificial intelligence to improve education. So I guess it's within that context it'll answer the question you asked me. It's what excites me most about the NRT. It's that the National Research Traineeship Program in Ethical AI. It's that it gives opportunities for AI students, computer science students, to learn about the societal implications of artificial intelligence, and it gives the opportunity for AI experts, budding AI experts who are outside of the computer science discipline to learn about the computer science side of artificial intelligence, to have those students mingle, to interact, to learn from each other, to appreciate each other's perspectives. I think that's been immensely exciting. So I think that's one thing. I think Ken, there's several other things you've been involved in. Including there's an ethics and AI signature course and the informatics major. Do you want to say something about those?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, so the signature course was really our first Good Systems wide effort toward education. And at the undergraduate level, signature courses are part of the first year experience here at UT Austin. So this is an opportunity for students in their first year to take a really small seminar style course. So it's an 18 student course. So we think of OCAM as like 350 students or something like that. And certainly there are plenty of large format courses that students often take in their first year. But we have a lot of really awesome programs here at UT that ensure that students aren't just taking very large courses, they're also taking much smaller courses that allow for that kind of robust discussion. Because as you just mentioned, Peter, thinking about the societal implications of AI is not necessarily something that's done best top down, one lecture to 350 students, but much better for students to be able to discuss amongst each other and have really invigorating conversations and have really interdisciplinary conversations. So one aspect of the first year experience is it's university wide. So as you mentioned, it involves students from across the entire campus. So there were definitely some music majors in the first offering of the signature course that I co-taught with Zhengfeng Zhao. There were engineering majors. There were pre-med. There were, wide range. And I think if you were to ask the question, like, who needs to know about AI these days, the answer is basically everybody. It's hard to think of a job that won't be touched or affected by AI in some way. Of course, I think a lot of people are worried about the job implications of AI. And of course, there's a lot of discussions on this. Certainly, our approach in Good Systems is that a human who's using AI to do their jobs is probably going to do better than a human who's not using AI, as well as to do better than AI that doesn't have a human in the loop. So it's definitely important that students are, considering the new career opportunities that AI is affording, the way that AI is transforming so many different occupations and so many different fields across, just about every aspect of life and society. And it's actually something in the iSchool, we have a project called Ladder, which is funded by the Institute for Museum and Library Services, that we have a group of fellows who are doing rotation projects in academic, public, and school libraries. And our school library project has been in partnership with Navarro High School here in Austin, Texas. And we've been focusing on providing a introduction primer to AI to high school students, as well as you mentioned, of course, the important ethical societal implications of AI, especially the way that AI is used in interviews. So now in a lot of cases, when you apply for a job, first of all, your application is being reviewed by an AI. So if you apply for a job at a big box store, it's going to be reviewed by an algorithm and perhaps never reviewed by a human if you're if you're not hired. And when you are asked to do an interview, sometimes People do recorded interviews these days where the algorithm is checking to see how often you look up and to the left, or whatever the latest psychology says is indicates deep thought. These kinds of things. Of course, if you're working in logistics, your work performance is going to be evaluated and managed by an algorithm. So it's pretty unavoidable in so many occupations these days. And then, yes, the informatics major, the iSchool launched in the fall of 2021. So this year we're graduating our first full 4-year cohort of students, which is really exciting. We had some amazing internal and external transfer students who already have graduated and gone on to do amazing things in a wide range of industries. But this is going to be our largest graduating course effort ever. So we're really excited about that. And, as the proposal was approved unanimously at every stage of the process, from our school all the way to the higher education coordinating board, and so especially at the university level. I remember there was especially a lot of interest in the fact that we have a required programming course and a required ethics course. So that combination was really appealing to a lot of stakeholders across campus. So I know that that's been a really popular program. We've had a lot of demand with some really fabulous students, and I know y'all are rolling out a honors program in robotics, right? Eager to learn more about that.
Yeah, that's right. And I will do that, but actually to encourage the conversation that I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to start by answering Lindsay's question. So Lindsay posted in the chat a great question. How do you balance use of AI versus critical thinking skills? And she wrote, I have found when students use AI tools to answer a question, they're not actually understanding the material, retaining the material, and not able to critically think to solve a problem. So I think this is a great question, and it's something that has caused a lot of deep thinking and hand wringing a little bit throughout academia. I think at all levels. At the beginning, when ChatGPT was first introduced, and it was people realized that many of the questions that we ask our students could be answered by first that system, and now many of the other large language models that have been released since then. That there'd be maybe a crisis in education, that students would be cheating a lot more, that they wouldn't think about the questions and actually do what we were intending them to do in learning. And I think that was a reasonable first reaction, but I think it's sort of not the way we should be thinking about things right now. And I think because first of all, because our students are going to need to use AI tools when they are out in the workforce. They're going to be expected to know how to use artificial intelligence tools. It's now become a responsibility of ours not to shield them from using AI tools, but to teach them how to use AI tools responsibly, in conjunction with critical thinking. And there's a great I think a great analogy to, and this is not my own, this has been often used, but to the calculator, right? We teach second and third grade students to do addition and subtraction, multiplication, long division, and we say, we give them lots of problems to practice those things without a calculator, to learn how to do it by hand. But then we don't say we're not going to teach our students how to use a calculator. We then teach them also, once they've learned the concepts, to use the calculator to speed themselves up, to be able to multiply larger numbers more quickly without error. And so it sort of was adopted by by elementary schools, middle schools, that we should both teach people to think with and to do arithmetic without this tool, and then also how to use the tool. And I think that's exactly the same way we should be thinking about AI tools. We need to be teaching our students how to write essays by themselves, how to answer questions by themselves, and then we also need to teach them how to use AI tools and language models, and in particular what they can be trusted for, and what they what kind of mistakes they tend to make, and when their work needs to be checked, or when how to use them responsibly. And so it becomes incumbent on all educators to be very clear with their students about, just like, the math teacher says, do this assignment with the calculator, do this next one without the calculator. We need to be very clear to our students about which assignments they should do on their own and which they should do with large language models. Does that open up opportunities for cheating? Yes, but that's always been the case. You can always get somebody else to write your essay for you. If you want to be very careful about it, then you can ask students to do some things in class without any computer in front of them, or to talk through what they've learned after an assignment to make sure that they actually have done the thinking. So, I think it's I think it's now just a matter of responsibility for all educators to know which of their assignments can be done by AI tools, and how to build assignments that are more difficult to do with AI tools, to be very clear with their students about what AI tools, which assignments can be used, can be done with the tools, and which should be done without. So I think it's a great question. And like as Lindsay followed up by saying, yes, we need to teach them to use AI, but still be able to recognize if the AI answer given is not correct or reasonable. That's the hard part. And that's right. That's a difference from a calculator. Like the calculator is always correct. This is what I mean by AI literacy, is that our students need to know how to use the systems, and not to do what famously a lawyer did of writing his legal brief with the output of a large language model and never checking it, and finding that it had made up a whole bunch of things. I think he lost his job over it, right? And so students, I think, elementary school students, middle school students now are learning and know that these tools can make mistakes, but they also have to, more than I think the early adopters did. But that's something we also need to teach them, and that's one of the motivations behind the course that Ken mentioned. This course called AI literacy. Actually, you mentioned the robotics honors program, which I'll get to later. But I'm really excited about a course that I launched this past fall, that in collaboration with Good Systems. Ken, you played a big role in it as well. It's called The Essentials of Artificial Intelligence for Life and Society. I sort of also think of it as an AI literacy course. It was designed for all students in the university, regardless of background. So it did have, again, humanities majors, social science majors, music majors, also some engineering and computer science students. That course, Stacy just put into the chat, all of the materials are available online. And the goal was, there were no programming assignments, so you didn't need to have any computer science technical background. There were some assignments, though, to get to understand how to use AI tools, basically along the lines of what Lindsay said, to understand when they can make mistakes, to understand when they can be relied upon, and also to understand that artificial intelligence is a much broader field than just language models, that the field has been around for 75 years. There's paradigms such as symbolic reasoning, probabilistic reasoning. There's been a lot of progress in computer vision, natural language processing. So much of which has been spurred by neural networks recently, but has been around for quite some time. And so the AI literacy is also to expose people to really what AI is, what it isn't, and including also the societal implications of it. And so I encourage people to go to that link and look. All of the you can actually self-study through the course. All of the reading assignments and the lecture sort of recorded lectures are there online, as well as sort of a taste of what we did in the live class sessions. It was sort of a hybrid class. And I'm very interested in feedback. I'm actually going to a symposium on the educational advances of artificial intelligence next week, where there's going to be a paper to present a paper about the early version of that course, which happened in 2023. And I'll also touch upon the one that we just did this past fall. So I've been talking a bunch. Ken, anything you want to react to that I've said, or from the nice the comments and chat that we've been having from some of the audience?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I mean, definitely, it's really honored to be able to be involved in the course. I think it definitely is what we need at this university, and we need frankly similar courses at other universities across the country and around the world, as well as, again, K through 12 level. I mean, just about everybody needs to have some basic AI literacy these days. And I think that's a lot of we've had some really good questions in both the Q&A and in the chat. Let me just grab this most recent one. from Ying Han. I'm a PhD candidate, will be teaching next semester. During my TA experiences, I've noticed that instructors sometimes frame the use of ChatGPT as cheating or unethical. With this framing, students tend to hide whether they're using such tools. I'm wondering if any teachers have openly discussed how to use ChatGPT in class assignments. For example, clarifying what prompts are acceptable and what prompts are not for assignments. So this is absolutely something that educators at the K through 12 level, educators in higher ed, like us at UT Austin, other universities across the country and around the world are dealing with. It's also something that, frankly, our professional societies, like the Association for Computing Machinery, ACM, has had to come up with guidelines for use of generative AI for in papers, because certainly there are a lot of cases where everyone's using a bunch of different tools for just about any writing that they're doing. I'd say first and foremost, as an individual student, the most important thing is to understand what the expectations and requirements of the course, as well as the rules of the institution are. So at UT Austin, we are encouraged as instructors to have a statement and to have as much detail as possible in that statement about what are and are not acceptable uses of AI. So that's an important thing to make that clear. So I think definitely if you're going to, if hopefully you'd have some role or input into the syllabus working with the lead instructor, and you might want to check with the lead instructor what their policy is going to be on the use of generative AI. They probably could use your input there. Not every, it varies tremendously, but not every instructor is really fully versed on all the different applications of generative AI and all the different ways that students can use it in courses. So that's one aspect is for any student, make sure you know the rules, and for any instructor, make sure that you create rules so that you can have something to follow. If you don't forbid the use of something, then it's hard to actually penalize someone for using it. But I wouldn't personally necessarily advocate for prohibiting the use of generative AI in all situations for all times. I agree, Peter, with your characterization of the calculator. Also makes me think of how I dealt with Wikipedia 20 years ago. So with the advent of Wikipedia, a lot of instructors told their students never, ever, ever use Wikipedia, go to Wikipedia, etc. My approach was Wikipedia can be a great place to start. And to be honest, I would often start at Wikipedia, but then I'd go to primary sources that were linked to from the Wikipedia article. So, I think that's a great thing for students to do, to start with a resource like Wikipedia and use it to find the primary sources. Similarly, you can get a lot of ideas, get a basic idea from generative AI, but don't stop there.
Yeah. So, I think, and I'll riff also on what you're saying, and also the comment from Eric in the chat, who teaches in the law school, and I think that's exactly the right approach. He says that he encourages students to use AI assist to develop the papers, which is that's sort of being explicit, saying I would like you to I'm opening up this opportunity for you, but you should also submit your prompts along with your and the results along with the paper. And I do something similar. I encourage students to use the AI tools to improve their writing and their and clarity, and I require that they first that they submit along with their final response what their initial draft was, and then how it was improved by the AI tool. And this is sort of different from there's a comment from Juliet, who's a high school senior, saying that she uses the AI to generate the initial version of a response and then edits it down. And I actually, I think that is one way to use the tool, and it's fine if that's what if your teacher is encouraging you to do. I actually prefer to ask my students to do it the opposite way. I think that the student should be doing the first draft, to be sort of, it can be rough, it can be the language, especially for people who aren't native speakers, which we get, that comes up a lot at the university sometimes. it's fine to to write a rough draft and then use the AI tool to improve it. But I think it can be it's also good to understand how it can be used in the way that Juliet says as well, to have the first draft and edit it down and understand how the first draft might that the AI tool produces may have hallucinations, or maybe have some things that are incorrect and that you need to fix. So I think knowing both of those paradigms and how to use them is useful. The important thing is that the teacher should be clear about which way what's acceptable, and then students should get in the habit of declaring and being open about and not hiding, as Ying said that it's students tend to hide it if you frame it as cheating. I think we want people to be very transparent about how they've been using the tools, and I think that's teachers should be encouraging students both to use them in the correct ways, to be explicit about which ways to use for a specific assignment, and that may change from assignment to assignment, and then to be open about their process, as Eric said. I do want to take a moment to talk about something I'm also really excited about, and Ken mentioned this earlier. We have launched something here that's at UT Austin. I am director of Texas Robotics, and we've launched a new honors undergraduate program in robotics. I think Stacy may be able to place the link to that in the chat as well. This is thank you. It's a brand new program. We're matriculating the first 50 students directly from high school applications to start this fall, and that's to augment a robotics minor that we launched 2 years ago for students who are already at the university. So sort of freshmen and sophomores can apply to the minor, and we have 50 slots for those sort of for the students who are already enrolled at the university. But now, for the first time, we've created a very robust undergraduate honors program for students who are admitted to the university. It's one of the only places where you can be admitted into a robotics program as at the time of admission to a university. At most places, and at UT Austin prior to this year, you had to first get into the university, and then you would find out if you had space, a place in the robotics program. And this honors program, it's not just about AI, because robotics is interdisciplinary. There's mechanical engineering and building the robots, and the electronics from electrical engineering. But it's also the intelligence aspect of it. And the students who are coming into it, first of all, it was one of the most selective programs at UT Austin. There were thousands of applicants for the 50 spots, and so we're going to have a fantastic group of students we're really excited about. They're going to have the opportunity to live together in a dorm as part of a living and learning community. So they can sort of all be together on a floor of Jester Hall, I believe. They'll be able to get involved in research on robotics as freshmen, as a part of our freshman research initiative program. They'll as long as they maintain reasonably high grades during their freshman year, then they'll have a spot reserved for them in the minor, the robotics minor, that they can take in conjunction with their major of either computer science, electrical engineering, aerospace engineering, or mechanical engineering. And then they'll have a lot of opportunity to get into sort of research labs of our core faculty in robotics. And so this is another AI educational initiative that I've helped launch, and that I'm really excited about. So, Ken, do you want? I think there are other things you want to make sure you get across. I mean, I guess we've both been a part of the masters in artificial intelligence, the online masters in artificial intelligence, which is also bringing AI education to the masses, in the sense that we have thousands of students. There's no sort of upper bound on the capacity. It's just anybody who's qualified is able to enroll in the masters of artificial intelligence, and it's at a very affordable price point. It's at $10,000 for the entire degree, $1,000 a course. And one of the key features is that there's only one required course, and it's a course that you teach, Ken. So do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, so ethics in AI, I think it does help to ensure, as you were noting earlier, the importance of all of the AI developers out there considering all the different potential use cases for the technologies they're designing, and how real people could be harmed potentially through AI, as well as how real people can be helped through AI. Actually, Jake had asked about examples of what students are doing with AI. So certainly, um, we can see a lot of great applications of AI out there in the world for like drug discovery to, discover new pharmaceuticals, and lots of ways that AI is um, being used. I mean, certainly with autonomous vehicles, we've had great advances there. So many, exciting applications, and I think there's sort of a microcosm here, and that's, some of the incubator programs that we have here on campus allow students who have really great AI applications to go out and start companies and, really make a difference in the world that way directly. Back to the comment that um, Eric Schwartz had made earlier about using AI in his class, and Peter comment on that as well. I actually do require students to use generative AI in the course. So the midterm and final assignments, students are required to use generative AI. And I do have them use generative AI to produce some initial text, but I have them reflect on it as compared to editing it. It can be great to use generative AI to generate text and edit it. Be really careful with the editing process. So there are cases of lawyers who've taken briefs to court that have been prepared using generative AI, and one of the unfortunate aspects of a lot of generative AI tools is they tend to hallucinate. So they'll make things up basically. And judges don't like it when you make things up. And teachers don't usually like it when you make things up either. So I've noticed with the scholarly literature as well, generative AI tools will often make up incorrect or fake citations instead of actual citations to actual papers. So be really careful about anything that comes from generative AI and the accuracy of that, um, in order
So,
to, yeah, good, Peter.
yeah, so I would say this resonates a lot also with Jake's comment where he said at the end, we need a lot more training for how people can use these tools as intelligence augmentation, or IA.
Yep.
And I think that's the key. It's we want people to be able to use use generative artificial intelligence tools to become more efficient, to sort of augment what they're able to do, but not dumb themselves down by making and then so this is where the training comes in, right? Where it's you can if you over rely on them, you need to know when to trust them, what to trust them for, how to use them, what to double check. And so I think that's a really good way of framing it in the essentials of AI course that I talked about. We do talk a lot about the sort of difference between automation and augmentation, and that some people are sort of scared of artificial intelligence from the perspective of taking away jobs and replacing people. Whereas I like to think a lot more of what the goal should be to come up with ways of creating tools based on the technology that enhance people's productivity, and then augment people. And so there's a couple other questions here that we haven't touched on yet, and I think they're both great to talk about. I think one of them I saw, but okay, one of them disappeared. But there's one from William recently. How can we justify using AI in our classrooms while taking into account its environmental impact? So this is actually, this is a great question. There's still a lot of, I think, debate or sort of about what the what the environmental impact is of AI systems. I mean, it's clear that there's computing power that's being used to train systems, but a lot of it, there's a lot of computing that goes into the training. The inference side of things is a lot less computation in general. Although there's new methods being developed that are much more sort of compute intensive, the kinds of when people talk about agentic models, or the ChatGPT's O3 is chain of thought reasoning. So I think we do need to be cognizant of sort of what the impacts are. We need to study and assess what the impacts are. There's also opportunities, though, of course, for artificial intelligence systems to improve our the environment, to reduce traffic congestion, which would reduce emissions, to have more efficient energy production, including renewables and things like that. So I think it's not really a clear-cut story of artificial intelligence being harmful for the environment. I think there are two sides to it, and there are benefits and there are costs, and we need to, like almost anything, we need to assess carefully what those sides are. But I think at this point, I don't think there's a practical way to put the genie back in the box. We're not gonna go back to a world where there aren't AI models, and I don't think we can pretend that that's that they don't exist, and then say that so we're not going to teach them in the school any more than we're going to go back to a world without automobiles or without smartphones. I mean, once the technology is there, there are clear benefits, and so I think we need to accept and acknowledge that they're there, and then like I say, I think it's our responsibility to use the tools in the classroom and to teach people how to use them, because they're going to need to use them in their careers, and they're not going away. Good. Let's see. I also see a couple of there's a Q&A panel as well. So Juliet said, how do you suggest finding ways to use AI in everyday optimization? What areas is AI less skilled in helping with? Ken, do you want to take a first crack at that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, first of all, keep in mind that by and large, AI is generally about as powerful as the data it's trained on. So, these generative AI tools are primarily trained on web data. So they're going to perform really well on things that are well discussed and archived on the web, and they wouldn't perform well at this point in terms of helping you with problems in your everyday life that are very specific to your context, etc. Of course, with so much social media data out there, and also as we're increasingly reliant on AI assistants that we're likely going to be interacting with and sharing more and more personal, private information with. They may, for better or for worse, become better and better at incredibly personalized kinds of information. But at present, again, that's an important limitation what the systems are trained on. But I think and some of this can also be trial and error. Try how useful you find it to be. We actually, Good Systems sponsored a panel at the Texas Tribune Festival, TribFest, in 2023, and a couple of the panelists were debating how effective generative AI was at generating speeches. And one of the speakers, a congressperson, was convinced that generative AI was not useful for generating speech material. And another panelist, a legal scholar, was arguing that maybe the U.S. representative needed to improve their prompt engineering, which is a term we use now to describe the ability to create prompts that are going to generate the useful kind of information that you need. And that actually, prompt engineering is a good example of a low code, no code AI skill and competency that's increasingly in demand these days. So in order to be able to get useful information out of AI, it somewhat depends on the prompt that you're using. So there are ways, and actually the field of information studies that I'm coming from in the School of Information has been focusing on these kinds of information literacy issues for decades. And so, that's certainly something that we're well suited to preparing students in our informatics degree program in our master's and PhD in information studies in terms of skills like prompt engineering to make sure that you're able to get what you want out of a generative AI. And then also got a great question from Heather Lee. AI literacy for seniors. I mean, this is a great topic. I think just about anyone could benefit from the materials in your course, Peter. So that'd be one starting point, but I wonder if you have more.
Yeah, I was going to say I think the AI literacy course we created should be, like I say, it's meant to be accessible to everybody without, regardless of background. And so I think that Stacy placed the link there in the chat again, and there are two versions of it. There's a version from 2023, which was a 1 credit hour course, which there's basically a YouTube playlist, which is a bunch of lectures of people working in different areas of AI. They're each 30 minutes long. I think there's about 12 of them that you can find. And then so that's the sort of easiest way, I guess, to get a high level overview. But then the more recent version with the 3 credit hour course from fall of 2024, which is the one that Stacy placed the link to, then they are cross-linked as well. That has sort of a full curriculum of sort of week by week what was assigned as reading, some videos for them to watch, a few, like I said, non-programming assignments, so assignments that you can walk through and should be accessible to anybody. And I think this is true for seniors as well. Like it was very carefully designed to be very broadly accessible. And so if for some reason you find that somebody is not able to work through the materials and there's some way we can make it more accessible, I'm very motivated to do that and get the feedback. So Heather, be happy to hear from you on that. But that would be my first cut recommendation is to go there. Let's see. There's I think those are and I encourage people to keep writing questions either in the QA or in the chat. But yeah, Ken, I don't know if you know of other. I mean, right now there are tons and tons of resources, on and lectures on AI, but it can be hard to sort of cut through to what's the most salient and useful source of information. I think that's the value of going to this course that we created, is that we carefully curated, sort of a 13-week curriculum that if you want to learn about AI, we sort of picked out. And it was difficult to sort of cut through all of the material that was out there, but we picked out the things that we thought would be most useful, and we curated some short video lectures that we required the students to watch as a way of sort of getting a broad overview. I don't know if there are other resources you have in mind, Ken, that you want to point Heather to. I think anything that goes for seniors goes for everybody, right? There's but yeah, anything that you think is particularly useful for seniors.
Possibly, but yeah, I think certainly, I'd want to do some user research, and I think there could be some exciting research opportunities to developing materials specifically for older adults. I think that it could be a really interesting. I know there are some materials out there. I think your course is great, Peter. But in order to customize specifically for older adults, it'd be great to do some research with older adults, find out what their biggest questions are, and develop materials directly toward it. Okay, so here's another great question. Apologies if I'm doing my best to pronounce names, but apologies where I make mistakes. But Suchitra Chander, my kid in grade 5 and kid in grade 11 love using games like GimKit, Blookkit, and such to learn in school. Yeah, maybe seniors can be taught to learn the AI that way as well. So certainly, yeah, I think it is interesting the ways that we're using in the K through 12 environment to learn some basic AI skills. Some of it could apply to other age groups as well, potentially. So I think that's certainly an interesting idea. Actually, code.org has a lot of great resources for coding in general, and they have some AI units that are very hands-on. So I think they have, is it Day of Code? Is that their event? I'm trying to remember. I believe it's called Day of Code. But anyway, they have some great resources that are available and that are very hands-on type projects. And then Juliet Glenn asked, I'll be a UTCS student next fall. Congratulations, Juliet. Welcome to UT Austin. Are there any programs, classes more accessible to freshmen? So I think, Peter, obviously you are in the CS department, so you're best to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, this Essentials of AI course is open to everybody, and it's going to be taught again next fall. So Julie, I'm not going to teach it next fall. Professor Jyoti Biswas is going to teach it, but using the same materials. And so I highly recommend that class. It's sort of taught in a very interesting format, and so that's open to freshmen. It's now part of the core curriculum. There's also an elements of computer science sort of computer that's available to non-computer science students to sort of it's called elements of CS that exposes people to the fundamentals of computer science, which includes artificial intelligence. And that can start as a freshman. There also are, like Ken said, there's signature courses that are open to freshmen as well. So UT has a huge wealth of options. I think the challenge will be sort of picking through the course catalog and narrowing it down more so than finding things that are accessible. But yeah, I wish you luck with it. There's also a new question here from James that I think, Ken, you're the one of the best person in the world to help answer, and it's what are the 5 most important AI related ethical issues? So if you had to sort of pick out what are the most important things for somebody who's developing artificial intelligence or learning artificial intelligence to keep in mind with regards to ethics or societal implications? What's your top 5 list?
So definitely algorithmic discrimination is one of the huge issues that we're dealing with and facing. So as I mentioned earlier, the AI is only as good as the data that's used to train it. So if there was any discrimination present in the data sets that were used to train it, then the algorithms would be learning that and would be then carrying out a sort of algorithmic discrimination. So that's an important consideration. So that'd be one. Certainly, issues with transparency are a big one. Understanding how AI works, what it's doing. So it gets back to the AI literacy issue that we've been talking about, and also some AI algorithms are more explainable than others. So it's not purely a literacy issue. There's some trade-offs in terms of performance, where you can have systems that are more accurate but are harder to explain. That transparency issue then leads to a issue of trust. Do people trust the systems? This trust issue is really far-reaching. So one example is deepfakes or synthetic media. So you can use generative AI to make video clips that are really, really, visually realistic and believable. Not only could you trick someone into believing something that didn't happen did happen, you can also create an environment where people would no longer believe the things that did happen despite some evidence to that extent. I think that gets into issues of agency and how much control we have on our own decision making, our own lives. It's to core values of freedom and independence that we really value in this country. And that in turn, number 5, I'd say the job implications. That's one particular aspect where, again, there are likely to be new jobs created through AI. There are likely to be some jobs lost through AI. But trying to do this in a way that we're bringing the workforce along, we're providing opportunities for people to enhance their job performance through AI, and not only thinking of AI as a means to reducing workforce alone. Because I think reducing workforce for the sake of reducing workforce, first, what could that team do, and how could they be even stronger using AI, as opposed to just across the board layoffs. But it's, certainly there are a lot of different, implications of AI, but those are five. Then we have one last question
Yeah,
from,
maybe I can take that as well.
Go for it,
Actually,
Peter.
but I first want to riff on or just add two things to what you were saying in terms of for James' question. I think briefly, from an economic point of view, I think it's there's also ethical questions of who should reap the benefits of generative AI systems, given that they are trained on information that's generated and created by people all over the world. And so, like, what are the right ways, to if generative AI systems are creating more productivity for society as a whole, what's the right way to distribute the wealth and to make sure that everybody benefits, rather than a concentration of wealth in fewer and fewer hands, which can be destructive for society. And then the other is, it's really important to be thinking about the use of AI technologies in the military domain, and what are the ethical implications of AI in warfare, and especially autonomous systems, and should they under what circumstances should they be trusted to make decisions? Can there be lethal force without a human in the loop? These are very thorny questions. But I guess the last question we have time for before we need to wrap up, Hannah asked, how do you see AI changing programming and the study of computer science? And this is, again, one of the really exciting and frankly first surprising capabilities of artificial intelligence systems, is the ability to help with programming, to come up with, and CS professors, computer science professors, realized very early that ChatGPT and other language models are able to do the programming assignments that we often assign to our early students. And so, same as we were talking about with writing, I think people in the workplace are going to be expected to become more productive by using Copilot and other AI tools for coding. And so we need to teach students both how computers work and how to program without the tool, but then how also to accelerate their programming abilities using generative AI tools. And again, just like with language, when they can be trusted, when they can but what kinds of mistakes they can make. You certainly need to verify the program, but they have been amazing at really increasing productivity, especially for building large programs that have sort of routine components that you would in the past would have had to type in at length, and now Copilot kinds of tools can give you something to do. Can be a first draft that you can edit down, and that can again increase your speed of programming immensely. And so I think that's also something we need to be teaching. That's also changing in education, teaching people how to use the tool. So I see Stacy's turned her camera back on, which is probably an indication that we're about to run out of time. So maybe I'll turn it back to you, Stacy, and to wrap up.
We are, and thank you both so much for such a great conversation. Thank you, Dr. Stone. Thank you, Dr. Fleischmann. Thank you to the audience for your great questions. This hour just flew by. And thank you to our partners at the College of Natural Sciences for hosting the Great Texas Science Festival. You can check the website for more sessions throughout the week. And we would like to extend an invitation to all of you to join us on campus April 2nd and 3rd at the Good Systems Symposium. We'll have more great conversations about ethical and responsible AI innovation, and hope to see you there. Thank you all.
Thanks all for being here.